Hello my friends, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Sade. I use they, them pronouns, and I post videos and vlogs about living an openly queer lifestyle here in New York City. I also post advice vlogs, and today specifically we are going to be talking about how to navigate the holidays as an LGBTQ+ person. If you like this video and or my content that I post, feel free to click the subscribe button. We are so close to 1,000 subscribers, which might seem small, but to me is very big. It means the absolute world to me. It has been like a New Year's resolution for me to be brave enough to even start a YouTube channel. I post on TikTok and Instagram quite regularly, and just the idea of long form content has made me really anxious and nervous, but I am doing it, and I'm so happy that you guys are here along for the journey with me. So if you're interested, click the subscribe button. Also feel free to give this video a thumbs up, and if any part of this video speaks to you or you want to continue the discussion down below in the comment section, feel free to leave a comment and we can continue the discussion there. But enough of that, we are going to get straight into the video today. Today's topic is how to navigate the holidays as an LGBTQ person, whether you are in the closet or out of the closet. I'm going to give you my tips and advice on how to deal with the holidays, being around family, going to functions as we approach the holiday season. Let's get started. Whether you are part of the LGBTQ+ community or not, family gatherings and holidays can be both joyous and stressful, and they can be extra stressful when you are a part of the LGBTQ+ community, especially when conversations of acceptance, identity, relationships, and the fact that some of us might still be in the closet, that can just add an extra stress on the holiday season. For me, I grew up in Montana, a very Republican state, and I wasn't always surrounded by people that loved and accepted the LGBTQ+ community. I remember when I was in the closet, it was very difficult for me to have family gatherings and go to Christmas and stuff, and people would just ask me, so who are you dating? What is your dating life like? Do you have a boyfriend? And would use she, her pronouns on me and would dead name me, and it just made the holidays very stressful and made me not want to attend a lot of family gatherings. So today we're going to be talking about the challenges of being LGBTQ+, whether you are in the closet or out of the closet during the holiday season, and I will give you, to my best knowledge, advice on how to handle them. So one of the biggest challenges that come with the holiday season, and this can go for really any holiday, even like your birthday, is family expectations versus reality. Families often have ingrained expectations which are shaped by things like culture, traditions, societal norms, and religion. A lot of these ingrained expectations can often conflict with a queer trans person's identity, which just heightens the emotional tension of the holidays and can make you not want to attend these holiday functions because of the ingrained expectations that your family or friends might have for you. For me personally, two of the biggest ingrained expectations that I have dealt with have to do with gender roles and romantic relationships. With gender roles specifically, a lot of that has to do with things that we do around the holiday season. So I would be asked to do the dishes and cook the food, while my male cousin would get to go outside and work on the landscaping or shovel snow, or they would get to do more of the work that I was interested, but because of my perceived gender role in society, I was forced to be in the kitchen. A lot of the chores or activities that I was forced to participate in didn't align with my gender roles and honestly caused dysphoria for me, which may seem small, but it actually impacted me a lot. There's also the expectation of gender roles and misgendering and dead naming around the holidays. A lot of people, when they go back home with their families might not be accepting to their trans identity, causing a lot of dead naming to happen with your birth name, which might not always feel comfortable for us, and also misgendering and not using the correct pronouns. That can really impact somebody around the holiday season. I mean, it'll impact people year round, but around the holiday season specifically, I feel like it gets heightened, especially if your family gathering is like your whole entire family and you just feel like you don't have an ally there for you. There's also the ingrained expectation of romantic relationships, of people expecting you to date the opposite gender, and this can cause pressure to hide your true self. I remember being asked countless times, when will I get a boyfriend? When will you get a boyfriend? Why aren't you dating? Are you ever gonna get a boyfriend? Your twin is literally married. When are you gonna find your right man? It can also be difficult when you're in the closet and you do have a partner and that person is referred to as your best friend or roommate. When family asks, hey, how's your best friend doing? How's your roommate? It can also include the conversation of, why don't you hang out with your best friend anymore? Why did you move out with your roommate? What happened? And you can't fully explain the situation because to them, that might have just been your best friend or roommate, but to you, that could have been your partner. This can be very frustrating and exhausting, and can also include the feeling of guilt for not meeting your family's expectations and not being the person that they want you to be. With family expectations includes the fear of being rejected or criticized for literally just being who you are. A lot of times when LGBTQ plus people go home for the holidays, they are put in a situation and an environment where it is full of heteronormative and cis-normative ideas, which is very stressful. I'm not gonna lie. That shit is tough. That's not for the weak. You might fear being outed for your gender or sexuality by a family member, or even accidentally outing yourself, especially if you are trans, wanting to express your gender through your clothes, or maybe you've started estrogen or testosterone without telling your family. Maybe you've gotten a surgery and you haven't told your family, and now these are things that you have to suppress and hide from your family because of the fear of being outed. There's also the fear of the phrase being used, "It's just a phase." I'm sure you've heard that. I've heard that plenty of times where people look at you and they go, "Oh, it's just a phase. You'll get over it. You'll find the right man. You'll find the right woman. You'll figure yourself out. God made you exactly who you are supposed to be. There's no need to change yourself. It's just a phase." That phrase can literally cut like a knife. Like, that is so hurtful to hear, and I know that I've heard it, and I'm sure you have heard it, or if you haven't heard it, you might fear hearing that phrase. There can also be the fear or the expectation that you're gonna be denied for your identity and being who you are. If you are out of the closet, this can look like intentional dead naming or misgendering. This can also look like your family trying to set you up with your neighbor who you've been best friends with since you were a kid, and he just might be the perfect man for you, which can put you in very uncomfortable and awkward situations. There's also the big topic of safety concerns, whether that's emotional safety, mental safety, physical safety. A lot of these concerns are real, especially for LGBTQ youth, especially for those living at home who have to experience this every day, or people who might have traveled across the world or the country and have found themselves and are now going home for the first time for the holiday season. In my experience, I've dealt with a lot of microaggressions and hurtful comments. For me personally, the comments that I've dealt with is people saying, "You'll always be my little girl," knowing that I'm no longer a girl and I no longer identify as a girl. It can also be, "Can you pick a gender? Can you pick a side? Can you pick a sexuality? Why do you have to be so fluid and so confusing?" And like I've mentioned, there's also dead naming, which can be especially hurtful on holidays, because for me, in my specific situation, hearing my dead name is less hurtful than seeing my dead name. So when I get presents on Christmas, a lot of the times when I went home for the holidays, I would see my dead name written on my presents, which cut like a knife because I had to physically see my dead name written on a present, and that was almost more harmful to me than hearing somebody say it. And the fear of physical harm is real, especially during the holiday season when that might be heightened by people being under the influence of alcohol. People might be stressed, they might be dealing with their own mental health issues, and that can arise to a lot of fear over physical harm. Now, when you're going home for the holidays, there can be similarities and differences whether you are in the closet or if you are out of the closet. Being out of the closet, you have the fear of your family knowing how you identify and you being very open about that, but them absolutely pushing your identity down, ignoring it, whether that is on purpose or just because they don't believe you, they feel like they can fix you. But also being in the closet for the holiday season adds a whole nother level to your comfortability. If you're in the closet with your sexuality, that can bring up uncomfortable conversations such as dating. What's your dating life like? Who you're dating? Why aren't you dating? And that also goes along with being sad that you can't talk about your dating life. You might be in the closet and be in a very happy and healthy relationship, which you want to share with your family, but due to the fear of being outed or the fear of coming out, you might not be able to talk about your partner, which honestly sucks because I have been there, and like there's nothing worse than going home for the holidays and everyone's talking about their dating life, they're talking about who they're dating, they're talking about engagements and being married, and you have to sit there and you might have the most amazing dating life ever, but you might not be able to share that because you're in the closet. And like I touched on before, there's also that fear of being asked, "Hey, why don't you hang out with Sophia anymore?" And you might go, "Oh, we just lost touch. We decided that our hobbies and interests were different and we live different lifestyles and we just stopped being friends." When in reality, that might have been your ex-girlfriend and you guys just broke up, and that might open up a fresh wound for you. That sucks. I have been there. It is so tough and difficult to deal with. And if you're in the closet for your trans identity, that can be a whole deeper conversation and level of uncomfortability for you to be going back home whether you are on hormones and you now have to maybe shave your face because you've been taking testosterone and you don't want your family to know. That might include the uncomfortability of having to wear a lot of layers so that nobody can see that you got top surgery. That might be having to wear a more masculine outfit when that doesn't fit your gender expression anymore. You also might go home for Christmas and you might be in the closet as a trans person. Let's say, for this example, that you are a trans woman and you are opening up presents and you receive a pair of work pants and a oversized flannel. And that might not just feel comfortable for you. If you're a trans man, you might open up a present and it might be a dress. Those things can be very triggering and hard to deal with. Okay, now that we've talked about a lot of fears and the negatives that can arise during the holiday season being an LGBTQ person, whether you're in the closet or out of the closet, we are going to talk about tips and advice on how to handle these situations. I know Christmas and Hanukkah are coming up in like literally, I think 10 days by the time this video is being posted. That is crazy. It is coming up so quick, so soon. So I'm going to give you, to my best ability, advice that I have to help you get through this season. The first thing we are going to talk about might be the most difficult, and that is setting boundaries. Boundaries are tools for maintaining your physical, mental, and emotional well-being. Boundaries are there to protect you, but they're also there to empower an individual to have open and honest communication with other people. It's basically like standing up for yourself, and I know that standing up for yourself, especially in front of your family, is very difficult, especially like if it's your parents or grandparents or people who are your elders and you're supposed to respect your elders. That can be very difficult to have the courage to stand up and set a boundary for yourself, to protect yourself, and to have that open and honest communication with them. I know that it is not easy, but we are going to talk about it. I'm going to discuss 3 different types of boundaries that you can set. The first one we're going to be talking about is setting emotional boundaries. I like to think about emotional boundaries as how much labor am I willing to put into protecting my emotions, and how do I want to communicate my emotions and how I'm feeling to other people. For example, let's say somebody brings up the topic of the election, or it brings up the topic that Trump just literally won Times Person of the Year. That can be very emotional for a lot of us, whether you are LGBTQ or not, but specifically within the community, that means a lot of our rights and our freedoms as queer and trans individuals are up for debate by political figures who are, for the most part, white, straight, and cis, and have never had to deal with a single emotion regarding being queer or being trans in their entire life. That can make somebody very emotional. I know that it makes me emotional when I have people bring it up to me. It can be very frustrating. I can feel like I'm on the verge of tears, and it's very uncomfortable. If somebody's bringing up a conversation or topic that makes you feel emotionally unsafe or emotionally unwell, you can say something as simple as, hey, this conversation's making me upset, can we rain check it? Instead, let's talk about your recent vacation. For me, the way that I can plan for this is before I see my family, I think about, okay, who's gonna be there? Who am I gonna see? Am I seeing my cousins, my uncles, my grandmas, my parents? Who are the family members that I am walking into? And then honestly, I go onto their Facebooks and I see what they've been posting about, or I go onto their Instagrams and see what they've been posting about. Maybe they took a recent trip, maybe they got a recent promotion, maybe they got a new job, maybe they got a new pet, maybe they had a baby, maybe they got married. There are topics of conversations that you can plan ahead for. So if you do need to rain check a conversation because it's making you feel emotionally unsafe or emotionally unwell, you can say, hey, this conversation's making me upset. Can we rain check it? Instead, let's talk about your new babies. They are so cute and I love them so much. There's also mental boundaries. For me, I would describe mental boundaries as how much mental space you are willing to give to other people and how much you are willing to let people dictate and control your mental state and well-being. Basically, the boundaries that you set on people controlling how you are thinking and how you are feeling. You might be in a situation where people are criticizing or trying to twist the way that you feel on certain beliefs that you have, including being queer, being trans. Some of our family members might look at us and they might firmly believe, whether that's because of religious backgrounds, traditional backgrounds, where they're from, their region, anything like that, they might firmly believe that being queer is a sin. They also might firmly believe that God put you in the right body. You're not wrong. Why are you changing yourself? God made you perfect. That can really mess with your mental well-being. Just like setting an emotional boundary, you might need to set a mental boundary for these types of conversations and discussions. The way that I personally would go about it is saying, I don't feel comfortable with this conversation right now. Can we please talk about something else? It is okay to look at the person that you are talking to and ask to change the conversation or the topic of conversation if it's truly making you feel like you are unsafe. It is very, 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 very difficult to do, but you are strong, you are brave. If it feels to that level of discomfort, either voice your opinion or simply walk away. You can always walk away from a conversation. You can also set physical boundaries with your family. For everybody, that's gonna look different. For me personally, when I walk into a room full of people, they're gonna want to give me hugs, give me kisses on the cheek. They're gonna wanna be super touchy and feely around me. Maybe you have a fear of them finding out that you've recently had a top surgery done, or maybe you fear that they might recognize you're wearing a binder, or they might just get a little bit too close to you for comfort. And a way that I personally would set that boundary, because physical boundaries are very, very, very difficult for me, is I would just simply say, hey, I haven't been feeling well recently. Let's maintain a distance that's good enough so that I'm not getting you sick. Maybe I haven't been dealing with an illness, but maybe that's just the excuse that I need to give to get out of that type of situation. I've used it in the past. It has been beneficial for me. Done. You set the boundary. Now, hopefully they will stay a safe distance away from you. There's also time boundaries. You can set boundaries for yourself, and this might look different for people. If you are driving to your family's house and you have an option and a way to leave the event or the gathering if needed, you can be like, hey, I can only stay until dinner. Once we have dinner, I'm gonna have to leave. Maybe you're in school, you can say, I have a big exam I have to study for. Maybe you're working, you can say, I have an early shift in the morning. You are allowed to set that boundary for yourself. Now, if you're living at home or you are staying at the place where the gathering is happening, this can be a little bit more difficult. For me personally, when I was staying at home and these family gatherings just got too much, the conversations got too deep, too real, too fast, and nobody was accepting for who I was as a queer trans individual, I love nothing more than a bathroom break. I'm gonna be honest, I love nothing more than a bathroom break. Bathrooms are where I can go to kind of just like take a deep breath. No one's gonna walk in, I can lock the door and I can feel safe and I can be alone for however much time I need, and then I can walk back into the situation when I've kind of regained my thoughts or maybe have spoken to myself, done affirmations. I love a bathroom break because honestly, when I was in the closet, I would rather honestly look at my family members and say, I'm dealing with IBS than say, I'm having an emotional breakdown because I'm gay and trans. Like sometimes just going to the bathroom and blaming it on issues like IBS or I just really have to pee, I'm really hydrated, like that might be easier than literally saying, I'm gay, I'm trans, I need to step away from you because you're making me uncomfortable. So if you are ever put in a situation where you are unable to set that boundary verbally with people, honestly, just stand up and be like, I have to go to the bathroom, it's an emergency. Go into the bathroom, take a seat or look at yourself in the mirror, splash your face with cold water, text a buddy, text a friend. You can also call hotlines if you're feeling very unsafe and you feel like you have nobody to reach out to. There are many hotlines that you can call or text. I will put some hotlines down in the description below if you are interested or you might feel the need to use them. They are very helpful. I've used them before, so I will add those into the description of this video. But literally just get up and walk away. If you feel like people are taking advantage of your emotions, your mental well-being, your physical well-being, get up and remove yourself. Say, I literally have a bathroom emergency, I have to go right now. Maybe all of a sudden you feel really sick in the stomach and you feel like you just are like, oh my god, like I feel really nauseous, I'm gonna go to the bathroom really quick. Just go to the bathroom, take care of yourself in whatever way that looks like, and then you can return either to that conversation if you feel comfortable, or when you leave the bathroom, you can go find a different set of family members and hopefully have a lighter conversation with them instead. I know and I understand that setting boundaries with your family can be so uncomfortable and can be something that you're unfamiliar with. It can also maybe lead you into a more unsafe situation. So my advice to you is know your limits with your family. You know your family best. I cannot tell you exactly how your family dynamic will work when it comes to setting boundaries. So before you head into the situations, maybe plan out, okay, what are my limits? What are my safe things to say? Maybe things that you should stay away from saying, things that might escalate the situations further, but just know your limits. Also, when you're setting these boundaries and communicating to your family members, use I feel statements. I feel statements are my favorite because in my mind, if I'm saying, I feel like I'm uncomfortable, or you saying I feel hurt by what you've said, they cannot argue how you feel because only you can decide how you feel. So by using I feel statements, you are able to clearly communicate how you are feeling without directly blaming them for how you're feeling. You can say, I feel this way because of what you said or because of what you did. I feel sad, I feel hurt, I feel upset, I feel uncomfortable. I need to remove myself from the situation or change the discussion of conversation. And above all else, if you truly feel like you don't want to even touch a single bit on any topic of conversation that might include your identity, you can be firm but direct with them, and you can say something like, I understand you may not agree with my gender or my sexuality, but I would appreciate it if you would respect my choices and refrain from commenting on it. Period. End of story, end of discussion. Just say that, hey, I feel uncomfortable. I understand you may not respect it. I understand that you may not get it, but I would appreciate it if we would just not talk about it. The next piece of advice I would have for you is to create safe spaces. For me, the idea of creating a safe place is creating a space that you can go without the fear of judgment or criticism, where you can truly be your authentic self, whether that's a physical location, it's a person, maybe it's even a mentally safe space. One of my favorite things to do when I am surrounded by a lot of family who may not be supportive of me is that I find one family member, if there is one, who is a safe space where I can go to, and maybe they know my gender, my sexuality, identity, and they might feel more comfortable speaking to the older adults than I might feel comfortable to. Usually this person is older than me. For me, I know my safe space growing up was always my aunt. I know that I could trust her to speak up for me if situations or conversations got really uncomfortable, and that she would kind of do the hard work and I would just be able to sit there and like gratefully thank her afterwards and be like, thank you for saving my life. Like, you just did so much for me, you don't even know. But sometimes it just takes an older adult who knows your identity and is a safe space for you to bring with you or hang out with when you're at these family gatherings, who can speak up for you when you can't speak up for yourself. There's also the buddy system. If you feel like you don't have a single family member that will accept you for who you are, maybe try to bring a friend. Maybe there's a friend that you have who is very accepting of you and knows how you identify and loves you for exactly who you are. Ask them to join you for this family gathering, because having somebody who is there in the space with you, who knows your identity and who knows you and loves you for who you are, can literally just create an entirely safe environment for you that you might not have otherwise. And like I mentioned earlier when we were talking about time boundaries and removing yourself from situations, you can also find a safe physical space. For me, this was always the bathroom, because there's a lock on the door and people usually don't go barging into a bathroom to talk to you. So if that's your physical space that you need, that can be your physical space. You can also take a walk. Say, hey, you know, I've eaten a little bit too much. I'm gonna go take a walk. Take a walk by yourself, or bring somebody who you feel comfortable to talk to, who maybe won't bring up the conversations of gender or sexual identity, and take a walk. Get some fresh air, soak in the sun, or if it's snowing, you can go play in the snow, but just finding a safe space for you. Maybe that's your childhood bedroom. Maybe you can just go like lay in your bed and you can kind of charge your mental and emotional batteries back up again, to where you can then leave that space and feel more comfortable in the situation that you're in. Again, for me, it was always the bathroom. I just feel like the bathroom is never a wrong decision, and you can always blame it on IBS, or you can say I'm on my period, or you can say, hey, I'm a little bit nauseous, and you can just go to that space, lock the door, and not have to deal with anybody for a couple of minutes. Also, another big piece of advice that I would have for you is that before you attend these family gatherings, if you know ahead of time that you're going to be put in an uncomfortable situation where you're going to either have to hide your identity or defend your identity, is to create a clear headspace before you go. Now, I think that this is really important, because if you go into these family gatherings without a clear headspace, it's not going to help you in any of these situations, and it's going to cause your mental space to get even more cluttered, more like, I don't know what's going on, like I'm just like feeling so frustrated and so many emotions. So before you go to these gatherings, create a good, clear mental headspace for you, so that you can walk into these gatherings and you can feel like you have enough mental space and mental capacity to handle these conversations if they get brought up. The way that I would go about this is, before I go, doing a lot of self-affirmations. Look in the mirror and say, I am valid, I am enough, I am valid in my they, them pronouns. My name is Sade, my pronouns are they, them, and I am valid. And just repeat that to yourself all the time. Maybe it looks like saying to yourself, my relationship is valid as a same-sex relationship and nobody else can change that. Use a lot of self-affirmations on yourself before you go. Look in the mirror, write them down, practice them for like maybe a week before you go, and just keep repeating that, so that when you go to these gatherings, you have affirmed yourself enough that you do not need other people's validation, because you know that just because of the way that you feel about yourself, that you are valid. And I will say it here, you are valid, you are loved, you are seen, you are so perfect exactly the way that you are, exactly in how you want to identify. You are loved by me and by many other people, and I love you so much. Another way that you can create a clear headspace before you go is going to LGBTQ plus holiday events. I know for me that when I was in Montana before I had to head home for the holidays, I would either hang out with all my queer friends and we'd have our own little Christmas dinner or Christmas party. I know that I would always go to our local LGBTQ plus center and hang out with people and talk to people and, you know, play board games, watch holiday movies. We would bake cookies, like just surround yourself with other queer people during the holiday season and make that like your big Christmas, right? If you're having a Christmas with all of your queer friends, make that your Christmas. If you're doing like a gift exchange, a Secret Santa, maybe a white elephant, just make that your Christmas and surround yourself with people who love you before you go to this family gathering so that you feel like you've already accomplished your Christmas, you've already had the best Christmas ever, and now this is just kind of like an errand you have to run. Another thing I love to do is affirming myself through media, whether that's movies, whether that's music, whether that's watching TikTok videos or YouTube videos, scrolling Instagram, and just viewing other LGBTQ plus people and watching their stories, because sometimes all it takes is representation for you to feel more valid in your identity. To this day, I am very, very, very comfortable in my gender and my sexuality, but that doesn't mean that 100% of the time I feel like I know exactly who I am and that I am super comfortable in being exactly who I am. Sometimes it takes me to view other queer or trans people online or through media to make me feel more validated. So before you go to your family and hang out with them, watch a queer LGBTQ plus Christmas story. Listen to music, listen to gay music, listen to music about people talking about their gender or sexuality, listen to podcasts, scroll TikTok, like just consuming media where you can watch people live their authentic lives and can remind you that you are valid and that you have a community being exactly who you are can be very helpful in creating a clear headspace going into the holiday season. Last but not least, I'm going to be giving you a little bit of tips and advice on coping mechanisms. Now for me, coping mechanisms are a way to handle stress, anxiety, and emotional pain in positive and healthy ways, because that's what matters and that's what's gonna help us actually get through these holidays. For me, the best way that I cope with things is through humor, whether that's dark humor or light humor. I love coping through humor. One of the biggest things that I have to use coping mechanisms for every single day is being dead named and being misgendered. People love to use my dead name all the time and they love to call me she, her. Now I understand that if I have not come out to you, just by looking at me, you are going to be using she, her pronouns for me because I present a little bit more feminine. But if you know how I identify and you know my name, you know my pronouns, and you still choose to be ignorant and to misgender me or to dead name me, for me, I'm very open about my dead name. So if you look at me and you go, "Hey Sadie, how you been?" I'm gonna go, Who's Sadie? I don't know her. I don't know her. If people use she, her pronouns on me or go, "Hey ladies, hey gals, like how you doing girls?" I will literally in my head go, "Who?" And maybe I'll like look over my shoulder like this and go, "I don't know her." That's the way that I cope in those situations. Literally in my head, every single time somebody dead names me or misgenders me, I literally go, "Who? I don't know her." And it just helps. I don't know, it distracts my brain away from what they said. And it's just the way that I choose to cope with these types of things. Something that I touched on a little bit previously, but might come up is when you're sitting down and you're receiving gifts, you might get a very gendered gift that may not represent the way that you express or identify with your gender. For example, if you are a trans man, you might receive a dress from your grandmother. And maybe it's a cute dress, but you open it up and it causes a lot of gender dysphoria because now you're, one, opening up a dress that was supposed to be bought for you, but you also now know that this person who got it for you truly thinks that you would still wear a dress. And you might look at yourself wearing a full tux and go, "You have the wrong person here. Was this gift actually made for me? Because if you think that I would wear a dress, you are wrong." But now when you receive these types of gifts, if you do, the way that I've always viewed it is that if you receive a clothing article or maybe some beauty products or something that may not represent your gender identity, gift it away and repurpose it. There was a Christmas where I received a dress and it was a beautiful dress, but I was like, I'm not gonna wear a dress. That's not who I am. That's not my gender expression. You clearly don't know me, family member who bought me the dress. I took that dress back to my friends and I offered it to a trans woman, because I know that if a trans woman goes home to Christmas, if they aren't accepted by their family, they might be receiving gifts that don't affirm their gender, and they might be dealing with the exact same thing you are. So honestly, it's fun to like do a little gift exchange with your friends afterwards. Like if you have a group of trans individuals who you are friends with and close with, maybe you all received gifts that don't fit your gender expression or identity anymore, and you can look at these people and go, hey, I got this for Christmas, who wants it? And you can have it repurposed and you can give it a good home. I still do that with a lot of items that I have received, is that if it doesn't feel comfortable for me in my gender expression, I love to look at my friends around me and think, who would this best belong to and who can give it a better home than I can? You can also do grounding techniques. This can look like breathing in specific patterns that help calm you down. There's also the grounding technique of 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing that you can taste. That really helps ground you and really helps center you back into reality and get your mind off of these negative situations. Again, circling back on the buddy system, if you can't bring a close friend or an ally to these family gatherings, have one on speed dial, have one that you can text. Send them texts throughout the day and just let them know how you're doing and who can affirm you and validate you and your identity as the day's going on. I love nothing more than to like text my besties when I'm out with my family and be like, just got misgendered again. Love that for me. LOL. This is so fun. And then have everybody text you back and be like, you are valid, you are seen, you are loved, who can sit there and use your name and use your correct pronouns in sentences that you can read, that you can see, and that you can have. And also, if you know somebody who's going to be in an uncomfortable family gathering, ask to be that person for them. Speak up. Maybe they're too afraid to ask you. You can speak up and ask them, hey, I know you're going to this family gathering. Do you want me to text you throughout the day to check in on you? When you're going into these situations, you also have to set a realistic expectation on how the day is gonna go. I know for me and a lot of people, if it's like your birthday or Christmas, you have these high expectations for exactly how you think that the day or the night should go. And you go, this is gonna be the most perfect Christmas. Everyone's gonna know my name. They're gonna know my pronouns. No one's gonna misgender me. They're gonna ask me about my girlfriend. They're gonna be accepting of me. I always say, set your expectations low so you have room to thrive. For me, those realistic expectations are knowing that my family are going to misgender me and that they're going to get my name wrong, they're gonna get my pronouns wrong. I know that going into these gatherings and these conversations. Every time I talk to my family, I know that I will be misgendered and I know that they will use the wrong name for me. It sucks. It sucks knowing this. It sucks knowing that I can't really change them, that I can't force them to use my correct name or pronouns, but that they're going to use the wrong name and the wrong pronouns. Sometimes they get it right. When they get it right, chef's kiss. It is so awesome. I feel so good and I love it so much. It is so validating for me. But I also set realistic expectations, and I know that if I'm going to these gatherings or I'm talking to them or whatever it may be, that I'm going to get misgendered and dead named. I go in with that expectation so that if they use the right name or right pronouns on me, that I'm happily surprised. I am joyful inside and I am shocked and surprised that they got it right. But I'm not walking into it expecting them to know everything when I know that they're not going to. Another thing to keep in mind when you're going into these family gatherings and holidays is that your family does not speak for everybody. Your family might have a unique view on gender and sexuality that may be in a very negative way, but you need to remind yourself that your family are just a few individuals and they do not speak on behalf of the entire world. So that you know that even if your family is not accepting, there is a giant community out there with open arms waiting for you to come to us so that we can give you a hug and that we can take care of you and that we can validate you and create a safe space for you when you need it the most. So always keep in mind, your family does not speak for everybody. Okay, we just discussed a lot of heavy things, so hopefully we're feeling okay, right? Shake it off, shake it off. Holidays are coming up, but they'll be over soon enough. Shake it off. I love you all so much. If you have any advice for anybody who might be going into the holiday season, feel free to leave advice in the comment section down below. And also, if you have any further questions, feel free to ask them. I will answer to the best of my ability, and we can have others chime in as well. I love you all so much. Please, please, please take care of yourself this holiday season. You are what matters the most. You need to take care of yourself before you can take care of anybody else in whatever way that looks like. As long as it's healthy, please be healthy, healthy coping mechanisms and healthy habits. But I love you so much. You are valid. You are loved. You are seen. You are worthy of a long, beautiful life. I love you so much, my friends. Happy holidays.